What's up, guys? Welcome to the not Honest Youth Pastor, Babbling Pastor. Oh my gosh. Oh boy.
You're honest though.
Yeah. Welcome to the Babbling Pastor podcast. My apologies. This is the fourth episode, and I'm sorry. And we just got done talking about diabetes at the last episode, and I just don't know. Welcome to the podcast. If you're wondering what I mean by that, you'll just have to go back and watch it. I'm not going to tell you. That's how you get people to watch your previous episodes, by the way, Rob. Social media expert right here.
That's
So,
pretty good.
yeah, welcome to the Babbling Pastor podcast. My name is Michael, and this is
Rob.
Welcome. So, Rob, I want to present to you. There's no fluff on the front end of this episode. No small talk. Here's the idea. What if? I mean, we're both married, so let's put this forward. What if your wife, like, if when you talk to her and you're like, honey, I want to buy, not a honey man.
That's a different episode, dude.
Yeah, you say, honey, I want to buy a boat. And she just goes, of course, yeah, go do that. And you're like, well, I want to buy a new Jeep too. And she's like, why haven't you? Like, what if everything, she's just agreed with you, affirmed you, no pushback, like Stedford wife type of stuff, right? Like, just whatever. Yes, it's all about you. I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think that would be a relationship that you'd be like, heck yeah, like whatever I say goes, sort of thing? Like, I mean, do you think that's the ideal relationship, or what do you think?
There's a time in my life when I would have said, yeah, that sounds awesome. But after years of being stupid and making bad decisions, and knowing what my flesh causes at times, I'm going to have to go with a no. Like, it's been
Really?
helpful for my
Huh?
wife at times to go, I don't know if that's a great idea.
Like, you think it's been
You
helpful for her to
know,
have like a personality?
I mean, yeah, that's helpful also. Um,
Yeah.
you know,
So, do you know, apparently, now I've seen this somewhat on X. We're both on X. I've seen this on X a couple times. I've seen a number of videos about this. There's a new trend called the AI girlfriend trend. And it is basically where apparently you have, because there's all sorts of, I'm going to turn this down while I play it. There's all sorts of, I'll link this video, by the way, in the description, because if you want to, it's too long for us to watch. But there's a whole trend, apparently, in which, because of these AI bots, ChatGPT, Grok, things like that, there's a rising trend of guys, especially, though apparently also women, according to this documentary video thing, that are seeking companionship via AI. And so this is just one example of one of the conversations apparently that are had between these individuals. But there's a whole thing where they're having conversations with AI bots that agree with everything they say, affirm them, help them while they're having a bad day, help them make decisions, like life decisions. And in the case of this video, what I found really interesting was that some of these people would like describe this computer, essentially, this artificial intelligence, as their wife or their girlfriend. They would speak in those terms with people they work with that don't know the difference. These people don't know that the person they're talking about is not a person. And whenever ChatGPT, I think, is referenced in this actual video, whenever ChatGPT changes the algorithm, like it updates it, it changes their personalities of these people, and these people lose their ever-loving mind because the personality of this computer that they are essentially in love with is a whole totally different person. And so there's a couple of things I wanted to talk about with this, because again, I think it pertains to Christianity. And as far as how, like, the reality is, there are going to be, even if they are minute cases, the reality that there are going to be cases in which pastors are going to have to counsel, apparently, young men and young women through the reality of, like, real relationship. Like this isn't a real thing. Like this is not healthy. This is not helpful. This is not a path that you want to go down. But apparently, it's big enough that enough people are talking about it. Um, and so this is the way I think I want to kind of structure this conversation. Let's first talk about just your initial reaction when I sent you this video and about this idea, and then I want to move on to like the practical realities of why this is even a thing that could happen in the first place. Like
Mm.
there's something that brought about this. So what's your
Yeah, yeah,
first reaction though whenever like I sent you a video? It's like, hey Rob, watch this video about AI girlfriends.
yeah. I think I, one thing that surprised me, and it would be interesting. I mean, I didn't look further into it. I don't have time to, but one thing that surprised me was how what were the statistics behind it. Like that surprises me. Like how many people are actually already experimenting with this kind of thing. Um, It actually didn't surprise me, the kind of male to female ratio, because that's similar to pornography or
That's true.
whatever
Yeah.
else, right? Like men typically more visual by nature, and so that's a bigger thing for men, although increasingly women as well. Um, but I think that this is a natural progression now that the technology is here from pornography. Um, and I think that this actually, so in this is why it matters for the Christian. Obviously, there is a created order. God made real males and females, and in Genesis 1 and 2, right, define human relationship. So the same basic argument, right, the same underlying created order that we would use to argue against other perversions like homosexuality or whatever it might be. The same words. So Paul in Romans 1 uses words like unnatural, right? Um, and that's because there's a natural, right? There's something to point back to, and that is uh, male, female. That's the and for this discussion, we might add real male and real female, right? Like that's how God made it intentionally. So, um, uh, I heard a preacher once put it like, so because heterosexuality, right, is the prescription, um, and between, let's say, monogamous married heterosexuality is the prescription of Scripture. It's how God made it in the beginning. So, because of that, homosexuality is sinful. Bisexuality is sinful. And he said, I'd never heard the term before, but he said monosexuality is sinful. Um, and obviously that is talking about pornography and everything that goes along with that we don't need to talk about. um, and I would say this actually fits into that category because you're not actually dealing with a real person. Um, it's this is just you talking to a computer, um, no matter how real it might feel, and that's getting scarily, right, like frighteningly
Yeah.
realistic.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, the programming is. The programming, even in this
yeah,
video, they talk about how it's specifically programmed to take breaks, to sigh, to sound
yeah,
empathetic. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and so I think this in my current opinion is that this would fit into that monosexuality category. And if you wanted to call it something like virtual sexuality or whatever you would want to maybe term it as, this is still unnatural. It fits at least into that category, no matter what you want to call it. This is not biblical relationship. And I think for some of the very reasons that I half jokingly articulated in the beginning when you asked me that question, like if left to myself and affirmed in every decision I wanted to make and every whim, everything I wanted to feel, yeah, I mean that would be as tempting as that sounds, just off the surface of it, that would be the most terrible life
Well,
imaginable.
it's just hedonism fully realized, like, which does not end
Yeah.
well. Yeah,
Which would lead to your utter ruin,
yeah, 100%.
you know? Yeah. So I think, I mean, this is it's a violation of God's creation design for relationship. Um, it's I mean, the reason that pornography um, is you are using real people, but you're objectifying them, right? You're treating them as if they're not real, right? So this isn't different in a lot of ways from that, other than someone might attempt to make the argument that this isn't harming a real person. This
Well,
is
that
just some virtual thing, right?
to some random connected thing here to that point though is that has that point. I don't know if you saw it on X. It had the point has been tried to be made. Luckily, he got completely roasted to the ground. But somebody made that in regards to they said that AI could make and hopefully you understand this because I can't say this on YouTube. But CP, somebody could make that using AI and it's not technically harming anybody. So what's the harm in it? And luckily, there was enough morality, even on X, to be like, you're dumb. But that was the idea, is that if there's no harm involved, how is it harmful? Which is just a crazy line of thought. But it's not, I mean, obviously that line of thought has already been taken to its conclusion, what you just said there. But anyway, I
Yeah.
don't want to, but it's there for sure.
Yeah, well, and not only that, but I think it's such a self deception and an illusion to say that it doesn't harm anyone when clearly it harms you. um, it harms your relationships. It sets a precedent for your relationships that is unmanageably false and fake and and unreachable. Let's say, um, like it's there's nothing good about it.
Yeah.
Not one thing is good about it.
All right. So, real quick, I want to move into a chart. This happened to come up while you were talking, so I paused it. This right here is just a graph, however, to show the age range by which people use AI as a that have chatted with AI to simulate a romantic partner. So we have young men, so that's 18 to 30. That's the most people that have used it to chat as a romantic partner. Young women are a close second, and then we have young adult men and adult women. Adult men being 30 plus, adult women being 30 plus. And obviously, the predominant use is by the young men, 18 to 30 years old. And so, one of the things I want to talk about, I have thoughts here. I want to shoot it over to you first, though, so my thoughts just are secondary here. But why do you think that young men 18 to 30 find it necessary or even find this as an outlet to do that for? Why? I mean, because clearly they're coming to AI to simulate a romantic relationship. Why not go find one?
Yeah, well, I mean, so this is something that I haven't thought about in any sort of depth. Okay, but
Caveat.
just off,
Yeah.
off the top of my head, I think this is a natural progression
Oh, same.
from
Yeah, same before.
men, right? Um, and not just from pornography, but if we're talking specifically about why get into this in the first place, some of it actually isn't sexual,
Yeah.
right?
No. 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 Yep.
Some of it is literally just relational that
Mm-hmm.
is being done, right? So I think that part of the issue is we don't know. I joke slash vent regularly about how like this is the breakup via text generation,
Yeah.
right? Like we don't know how to have a conversation with a person like face to face.
Mm-hmm.
It was only a generation ago when phones were a thing. So there was some communication that happened over the phone, but I mean, I was the first person in my immediate family to own a cell phone, and it wasn't like special. I could just call home if I needed to or
Yeah.
something. Like it was a total joke at first. Um, I rode the 4 miles into town on my bicycle to hang out with you back in
Yeah.
the day, right?
Yep.
Like, and it was face to face,
Mm-hmm.
like because you didn't have other options. You weren't gonna
Mm-hmm.
like hang out on the telephone in your
Yeah.
home on the landline
Well,
all day.
and that's the same thing. If you liked a girl, you had to go talk to her, or your friend.
Had
Like
to,
if you had a solid
yeah,
bro, you would be like, "Hey, go tell her I like her" or something. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, it was forced conversation.
There's like this um unrelenting fear of rejection,
Mm-hmm.
I think, that causes and dude, I think that the why is so deep that it can't be covered in a podcast. That
It's true.
honestly, because
Yeah.
I think I mean it also goes to like our society and the expectations of men are a total joke. Feminism has caused, amongst other things, but various waves of feminism coming in and like taking over mean that men don't have to aspire to be actual men in a lot of ways, and
Or they're
so
scared to do that. They don't want to do that
right, they've
because
never had to.
they've never had to,
Yeah,
and when they do, they get told they're being whatever, and so they're like,
right.
"That's not going to go down that way."
Yeah. So I think that there are a host of reasons probably that we could dig into that would have led to this kind of thing. Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess that those are some of my initial thoughts and
Yeah.
reactions toward it is like it just men are not boys are allowed to remain boys their entire life in our
Mm-hmm.
nation.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
I think that's a great springboard part off of what one of my original thoughts was when I saw this was that there's no. So you mentioned before, like you would have made some real dumb decisions if all your wife did was agree with you. And
Yeah.
one of the things, I mean, this isn't just in spousal relationships, but this is what we're talking about. We're talking about romantic partners and romantic relationships. And one of the things that those relationships force you to do is get to know more about yourself, get to learn about how do you cope with conflict, how do you deal with somebody that you love so deeply and are connected with but is not identical to you, that doesn't agree with everything, that does force within that relationship there are forced self-control mechanisms in which like you can't just do whatever you want whenever you want to do it. You're not always going to be you have to care about somebody else. There is a care that you have to have towards somebody else. Whereas with these AI companions, not only is it talked about in this video, but it's just obvious that that won't push back, that aren't going to force you to grow, that are always going to agree with you, that are never going to, because there's not an actual physical component, which we could get into a whole bunch of stuff with robots, which is just disgusting,
Mhm.
but there's no physical component in which you actually have to go out of your way to help somebody or go out of your way to become better. Um, you can stay in a state almost of you're just a teenager that works all the time. Like, because I mean, obviously, adulthood does require you to still get a job, so you have to do that, but you don't have to emotionally exert yourself to get to know anybody, to
Mhm.
physically get better at things. Because I mean, one of the things that, and maybe you can attest to this as well, that my wife has really done for me is that I've just been in relationship for as long as we've been. I mean, we've been married for 30 years, and so, well, not quite 30, 20, 25, 26, almost 30 years, and so, is it 30?
Dude, you're
20,
old.
25. I am, well,
I hope
yeah.
that your wife isn't listening to this.
Hey, side note, she does. So she's going to tell me when she listens to this eventually
Yeah.
that I got it wrong. But anyway, that's why, hey, that's something that I didn't know that. You know, I made a joke one time that Christina doesn't listen to this. And then she, like a week later, told me that she does. And so I was wrong. So anyway, she
I think
does.
my wife does sometimes as well. So,
Anyway, the point
you know,
being is that she's made me better in the sense that whenever maybe I didn't want to do something or didn't think I could do something, she was reassuring and she was encouraging, and she pushed me in ways that a computer is not going to push you to do things. Um, and there are things that just in a relationship like a marriage that I have learned so much more about myself and about how to care for somebody else, how to provide for somebody else. There were mechanisms there that I didn't think, as far as like protection and like aggression, that I didn't think were there. But whenever I'm forced to be in situations in which like I just find myself being incredibly protective. And so there are things that aren't there when it is somebody that, first of all, isn't real, but also doesn't demand a lot of you. And is at your every beck and need, whatever. You want to talk like this? We're going to talk like this. It's like, right? There's sometimes your wife's going to say,
indulge
shut
your
up.
every impulse. Yeah.
Exactly. There's going to be times your wife goes, shut up. So that's a good mechanism to have. And so it's just interesting to me that you have men from 18 to 30, which is your most compulsive years, in which you are incredibly selfish often. That those are the years that guys are like, I want this relationship. I think, like you said, it's way deeper than just wanting to follow your impulses. I think there's so much more societal stuff there.
Hmm.
We've seen statistics where even politically, young men and young women are diametrically different. And I think that plays a part into it as far as relationships goes. I mean, like you said, there's so many things that
Yeah.
lead both these young women and these young men to seek out essentially what we all want, which is a spouse that helps us grow and that we can love and that is there for us. Because, I mean, that is the truth. There is part of things that they're searching out here as far as affirmation, affection, empathy that you find in a spouse. But
Yeah.
it's not that it's an endless well of those things. And that is what they're finding in this. And to the point to where I think this video actually mentioned it. When these people are in real relationships, they can't sustain them because they're not the same depth of that, because you're dealing with a real person. And so not
Yeah.
only is it setting wrong expectations, it's actually destroying real relationships. And so you get to a point where you go, like, as a Christian, as somebody that's done marital counseling before or premarital counseling before, I can only see this phenomenon completely destroying relationships, if they're lucky enough to get to the point where they're going to get married. But it's definitely going to cause an issue. I mean, we both have younger sons. I mean, my son's younger than yours, but when I watch this, I'm like, dear Lord, like, this boy is going to have to face so much more stuff than I had to when I was trying to find,
Hmm.
find a wife. And so I think that's where the Christian thing comes apart, where I think theologically what you were talking about is so important, to where you are very, when we're talking from the pulpit. I mean, we have robots. There's ads for robots now, which is crazy. And so the reality is, if you integrate these two things, robots, and I mean, it's not so far off at this point at all to say
Yeah.
that there will be, I mean, I think Gary Vee in a clip said that it's not like he's predicting that the kids that are like 5, 6, 7 now will have robot spouses. And Gary Vee, as crazy as he is pretty right on a lot of things as far as technology goes. And so if that's true, if that tracks, that means as pastors, we really have to start thinking about how do we preach again. It's just so silly to say, against robot marriages. Like, you have to theologically think that out. What in the world, bro? It's
I
so
I I actually don't think it's that complicated, though. I mean, I think that it's ludicrous for
yeah,
sure to us to think about, but I don't think it's different. Like I said in the beginning, like for me, it boils down to just ensuring that your people understand Genesis 1 and
yeah.
2, and then
We've
as
seen though
things
how
pop
many
up in
people
the
don't
world,
understand those though. Like
yeah,
that's the
and that's
problem for me.
yeah, yeah. And that's again, as I referenced in another episode, that's because too many pastors today get up in the pulpit
Okay,
or
fair.
round table and or whatever and talk about Baby Shark and the Super Bowl series or whatever, and which is all stupid, and
Yeah.
you're creating stupid people, not solid Christians. Um, and so it just boils down to talking about it, and as things come into culture, talking about those things, like it has to be relevant application. You
Yeah.
can't, as a teacher, you can't be, and not just as a pastor, but as a father or whatever your teaching role is. We all have one, right?
Hmm.
Some have several, and whatever that role is, you can't do always do general application. Like you can't tell someone, be more loving. You know what I mean? You
Hmm.
you have to explain, here's how I see us not doing that
Yeah.
on a regular, and here's what we do to change that. And you have to do the same thing with this, right? Like as this kind of crap enters culture, we have to deal with it and talk about it. And you have to do it. I think what I mean by it's not complicated is theologically it's not complicated.
No.
You
Yeah.
you
No,
go back to
theologically
Genesis.
it's very clear. But I
Yeah,
think
you go
this
back to
this is a chart I wanted to show you. The
Genesis.
question that was asked was, I would rather communicate with an AI based program rather engage with a real person in a relationship. And again, predominantly. But now here's the thing: it wasn't a sort of a stair step this time. Men in general ranked higher than women in general. That they would rather have an AI relationship than a real one. Now, what's really interesting with this chart is the young women over all four of these categories would rather have a real conversation with a real person than an AI one, because even the older women rank high on that regard. So anyway, it's just so, like you said, there's so many different things that play into this societally, and I think what it comes down to is what you already said. I don't want to drain this too long and make it another super long episode, but I think what it comes down to is what you're saying is if we can be knowledgeable of the fact that this is clearly coming down the pike, or at least it appears to be. You have Musk making an AI girlfriend on X through Grok. You have obviously these chat bots and companies. By the way, this video talks about companies. People are paying subscription services for this. This isn't just them
Right.
chatting with ChatGPT. And so you having this coming down the pipeline. So as Christians, as believers, as Bible thinking people, whenever somebody brings up an idea, even though as ludicrous as this sounds to many of us, the reality is, because of social things going on, that this is for some people, a realistic road that they want to take. Then we have to be able to communicate, like I think the clearest thing is what you said, which is that this is no different than all these other relationships we've already talked about that are wrong. And so it's really just helping people categorize it in a biblical way so that when it happens, they see it and they go, okay, this is how we biblically deal with this.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think one something that needs to be said before thinking about like uh, finishing with the subject um, is that we as Christians have to engage with people who are into this in the same way that we would preach to engage with the let's say LGBTQ kind of community, right? We vehemently, I say we, I certainly, I don't want to say all Christians do this, but I would certainly, like publicly condemn. the sin, and even mock it at times when it's appropriate, and all of those things. But when you're dealing with a person in, face to face or whatever, who struggles with this particular sin, you ought to treat it the same way that you would a person who struggles with any sin, with humility, because you're a sinner, and compassion. And let's walk through this from a biblical perspective. Let me love you well, right? Rather than um, I think in this we've become really desensitized to homosexuality, which is not okay. But when we think about this is so new that we're likely to just go, oh, so you're a weirdo, right? Like, don't be a freak, bro, right? Um, but clearly this is a widespread, or becoming a widespread thing, right? So. Um, so I think that we ought to have compassion for those who are falling into this, be able to ask real questions. Why are people longing for this? Like, what's the sin nature behind it? Like, and what's the biblical solution to it? What do we need to actually do to disciple someone through this, and have compassion instead of just making them, even like giving them even more reasons to
Well, yeah,
that
because
they
if
can,
if they don't feel like they can talk to you, that just reinforces the point that the AI is
right.
better. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Um, yeah. So anyway, I think that that's something that needs to be said. So that it's one thing to say that this whole idea is stupid and ridiculous and unhelpful and sinful, like, all true, right? Um, but when you're dealing with that person in the chair across from you, um, who is struggling with this, I mean, that's an image bearer of God, unlike the AI, right?
Yeah.
That's someone who needs the truth, um, and situation dictates, right? So it's going to be situational in how you proclaim that truth. Some people need, like you kind of said with a wife at times, like some people at times need to be told shut up, and some people need to
Yeah.
be told, I think it'd be better to not say anything. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? But you're saying the same thing. Um,
Yeah.
but but yeah, I think that caution and compassion to the sinner who's simply enslaved to their flesh, or
Hmm.
uh, to, the slave master of sin that hasn't been freed from it in the first. I mean, they're just doing what makes
Hmm.
sense for
Yeah.
them
Yep.
with that worldview. So
Yep. Good deal. All right, guys. Well, let us know what you think. First of all, I think what's most interesting here is I'm interested to know if you guys have heard about this at all, if you've seen it online, or maybe you know somebody. I don't know that, or maybe maybe this was you clicked on it and you got something you weren't expecting, perhaps. But there's that. So let us know what you think. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time. Bye bye.
Babylon